There are moments in life when we feel like we've reached the end of the road, when the weight of our struggles presses so heavily on our hearts that we wonder if we will ever find a way out. I had one of those moments, a time when darkness engulfed me so completely that I could not see even a flicker of hope. But somehow, against all odds, I found my way back. And if you're reading this, feeling lost or broken, I want you to know that you can too. This is the story of how I saved myself from breaking down, and how you can find strength in your lowest moments. It happened slowly at first, like a quiet storm gathering in the distance. Life had thrown one challenge after another at me: loss, failure, heartbreak, and disappointment, all stacking up like an unbearable weight on my shoulders. At first, I convinced myself that I was strong enough to handle it. I told myself to keep pushing forward, that things would eventually get better, but they didn't, not immediately at least. One day, I woke up and realized I had lost the energy to pretend. The weight had become too much. The spark that once ignited my passion for life had dimmed, leaving me feeling empty. I withdrew from the people who cared about me, ignored the things I once loved, and let despair take over. It felt like I was drowning, and no one could hear my silent screams. I don't know exactly what made me stop and rethink everything. Perhaps it was exhaustion, or maybe a quiet voice inside me refusing to give up. But on one particularly lonely night, as I sat in the darkness, a thought surfaced in my mind. What if I am stronger than I believe? It was a small thought, almost insignificant, but it sparked something inside me. I wasn't sure how to get out of the darkness, but I realized I didn't want to stay there anymore. And so, I made a choice, the first real choice I had made in a long time. I decided to fight for myself, no matter how long it would take. Looking back, there wasn't just one thing that saved me. It was a series of small steps, each one building on the other, that slowly pulled me out of the abyss. I allowed myself to feel everything I had been suppressing for so long. I cried. I let myself be angry. I allowed myself to grieve. And in doing so, realized that emotions, no matter how painful, are temporary. They pass, and we remain. I had convinced myself that I had to face everything alone, but I was wrong. When I finally found the courage to open up to a close friend, I realized how much support I had been pushing away. Talking about my pain didn't make it disappear, but it made it more bearable. If you're struggling, reach out. Whether it's a friend, a therapist, or even a stranger who understands, you don't have to face this alone. In the depths of despair, finding meaning feels impossible. So, I started small. I found one tiny reason to keep going each day: watching the sunrise, listening to my favorite song, reading a book that inspired me. These small joys became my stepping stones, guiding me toward hope. I had to accept that the past could not be changed, but my future was still unwritten. Instead of dwelling on what I had lost, I focused on what I could still create. I picked up new hobbies, met new people, and slowly rebuilt my world, piece by piece. The hardest part was realizing that healing wasn't linear. Some days felt like progress, and others felt like I was slipping back into the void. But I kept going, reminding myself that even setbacks were part of the process. I remember one evening when I sat in my room, staring at the wall, feeling like I hadn't moved forward at all. The air in the room felt stagnant, heavy with the weight of my own thoughts. Every moment seemed frozen, as if time had abandoned me in that space of uncertainty. But then I realized something powerful wasn't in the same place where I had started. The version of me who had once sunk into despair, without resistance, was no longer here. I had moments of laughter again, moments of genuine connection. They were small, fleeting at first, but undeniably present. I had smiled at a joke, felt warmth in a hug, found comfort in the quiet presence of someone who understood. It dawned on me that healing doesn't come as a grand revelation, but rather as a collection of tiny, almost imperceptible victories. That's when I understood that even the tiniest steps count, that even breathing through one more day was a victory. No matter how slow, I was still moving, and that alone meant something. This was the hardest, yet the most powerful shift in my mindset. I had always imagined gratitude as something that should feel grand, a deep, overwhelming sense of appreciation. But I learned that sometimes it is found in the smallest of moments. Even in my darkest moments, there were still things to be grateful for: a kind word from a stranger, the warmth of the sun on my skin, the sound of rain hitting my window. These moments didn't erase my pain, but they reminded me that life still had beauty in it. I started journaling, capturing the smallest moments of gratitude, writing down even the tiniest things that made my day just a little bit better. The scent of coffee in the morning, the way my dog wagged its tail when I walked into the room, a song that felt like it understood me better than I understood myself. Over time, I saw patterns of hope emerging, proof that my life was not as empty as I had believed. It became a game of noticing, of actively searching for what was still good. I found that the act of looking for beauty, even when I wasn't sure I would find it, changed the way my mind processed the world. Slowly, I saw more color, where before I had only seen gray. I learned that resilience isn't just about strength. It's about choosing over and over again to seek out the light even when it feels like it's been swallowed by the dark. It's about realizing that even on the hardest days, something, however small, can still be beautiful. I started reminding myself daily, if I could find even one thing to appreciate, then I had proof that life was not just suffering. I had proof that I was still here, still alive, still moving forward, even when it didn't feel like progress at all. It didn't happen overnight. Healing took time, and there were still difficult days. But as I continued taking small steps forward, I noticed something incredible. I was becoming stronger. The things that once crushed me no longer held the same power. I had learned to bend without breaking, to find light even in the darkest of places. I learned to trust myself again, to understand that resilience was not about avoiding pain, but about facing it and surviving it. If you're in your lowest moment right now, I want you to know this: you are stronger than you think. Even if you can't see a way out right now, trust that it exists. One day, you'll look back at this moment and realize that it was just a chapter in your story, not the end of it. The pain you feel today will shape the person you become tomorrow. And believe me, that person will be strong, wiser, and full of life again. Take it one step at a time, breathe, keep going, because the world still needs your light, and your story isn't over yet. If you're carrying pain, if you're holding on to sadness, I want you to know that you don't have to do it alone. Pour your heart out, let the weight of your struggles flow through words. Scream into the silence, write down everything you've been too afraid to say, or simply whisper your truth to the wind. And if you need someone to listen, I am here. I may not know your story, but I know the feeling of being lost, of longing for understanding. So, if you need to unburden yourself, I am here to hear you, to remind you that your voice matters, that your pain is real, and that you are not invisible. You are seen, you are valued, and you are not alone.